let's have a second to pop into Adventure Capitalist and have a slight talk about something. What I want to be talking about is tariffs and what ultimately they're not going to matter. Okay? And here's why this is, okay? Get ready for this one, alright? What we're going to be doing here is discussing something that will shock you, alright? Let's take a second to talk about tariffs, okay? This is U.S. tariffs under Trump, okay? 25%, 25%, 15%, okay? All right, you get it? That's off of the top, okay? And this is excluding import fees and, the various people you are, basically forced to hire to basically unload, load, all that rut, okay? Okay? The United States has some major problems, okay? These tariffs will ultimately mean nothing, okay? Alright, because in the United States has this slight problem. I showed it to you in an earlier video, okay? In fact, I'll show it to you again, okay? Federal government tax revenue by year, okay? All right. All right, here you go. Here's the balance, okay? All right, I want to just slide down here real quick. 2023, 4.44 trillion. Okay, well, actually, it's down a little bit from 4.90 trillion, but it doesn't matter. It still crossed $1 billion. Okay, what that is basically saying is that the federal government is massively taxing. This is before you even start talking about state and local taxes, which is also a thing. Okay, and some states even has a sin tax. Okay, we're not going to get into that. Okay, all right, and then the United States is very pro-union. What that means is that if you're going to run a factory, like let's say in Detroit, okay, you want to set up an automotive factory. In some states, basically, you cannot even set up a factory without hiring union labor and paying union dues and paying negotiated contracts by unions, okay? What that basically does is that handcuffs a lot of states for certain industries, okay? Like Hollywood is very unionized, okay? Grips voice actors unions, directors unions, okay? All of it, okay? Now, I just gave you a list of reasons why the United States has got a major problem. And this is where I'm getting into why the tariffs is ultimately going to mean nothing. All right. If, for the sake of argument, all right, even if, all right, this is going to get stupid, okay? Even if Trump puts a 40% import tariff on anything made in any other country, all right? The cost of running the factory in India, China, or Mexico is still going to be cheaper because a lot of other countries do not have minimum. Does not even have minimum wage laws. What that means is basically the net running cost of a factory in another country. Okay, is still going to be cheaper because let's face facts here, okay? If you're a business owner, okay, and you have a factory, let's say, making thingamajiggers, okay? All right? Let's say let's say you've been scaling your manufacturing to meet your demand for your thingamajiggers. Okay, let's say for the sake of argument, you started out selling one thingamajigger. So you basically made it where you just sit there and you make your thingamajigger yourself by hand. Okay, then let's say your thingamajigger goes to a demand of 100. Then you license another manufacturing plant that can basically manufacture your thingamajiggers for you. And then let's say you hit 1,000. And then guess what? You now got your own factory making 1,000 thingamajiggers. Then let's say you got 10,000, then 100,000. Then 200,000, you've been scaling your manufacturing up, and then your demand for your thingamajiggers went from 1,000,000 thingamajiggers down to 1,900 thingamajiggers. Okay, and that's cool. You've got a back inventory, so you temporarily stop your factory, and then you sold them, and then you resume manufacturing. But then you go, okay, I'm paying all these taxes, all these labor costs, and then now, guess what? You've now had this thing like, okay, my demand might go down, but I'm paying all these employees, I'm paying manufacturing, I'm paying all these taxes. Now you're going to move your plant to another country to cut the labor costs. That way you can still charge the same, but now you can have a back cash reserve, so that way in the event you have a downturn on demand for your thingamajiggers. That means you can maintain ownership of your plant and maintain the current staff you have working at your new plant when you moved it. As for your current staff, well, they're now unemployed. That's why the tariffs ultimately will mean nothing, because right now the United States still heavily taxes industry with licensing fees and stuff like that. You got your federal, state, and local industry and manufacturing taxes, meaning that basically it's not going to help. The tariffs are not going to change anything, because the root cost of running your factory is still too high. It's not going to help. I mean, if they wanted to actually help, okay, they would have done the smart thing, okay? And then cut those taxes on industry. In fact, the federal government was smart. They would have signed into law, basically, permanent tax exemption for manufacturing and industry in the United States. That means basically they're just exempt from property, state, federal, okay, taxes. Basically, the actual cost of the factories themselves would be permanently tax exempted. And then to ensure, because the United States has an inheritance tax, ensure that if an owner of a privately owned business doesn't end up dying and then leaving it to their children, okay, they wouldn't have to pay an inheritance tax either. You see, that's the problem. They're not doing the Trump did not do the smart thing. I'm not going to get into what the actual tariffs are about, okay, beyond the, okay, I'm not going to get into it because that's getting into a whole bunch of other stuff, right? But suffice to say, all right, the reason, okay, the reason Mexico hasn't been getting hit so hard by the tariffs as, you know, Canada and whatnot is, all right, because they actually did do what Trump was wanting, and that was, well, try to say, actually dealing with the, well, actually, I'll just show you what the tariffs are actually about, all right? All right, I want to just show you here, okay? China illegal drug smuggling into the United States. yeah, this is what it's basically. It's just the illegal. It's a government-backed China fentanyl manufacturing being smuggled, through Canada and Mexico and other countries into the United States. All right. It's basically about dealing with that. Tariff threats take aim at fentanyl. Basically, that's what it's actually about. All right, it has nothing to do with the trade deficit. As in other countries, tariffs is higher from goods being made in the United States to their country. That's what it's actually about. It's about the illegal, fentanyl manufacturing and smuggling into the United States. And it's actually worked. Mexico's gone full in on clamping down on the fentanyl, smuggling into the United States from other countries. Yeah. My wife's side of the family's actually lost somebody to the illegal, fentanyl smuggling. So I'm glad somebody's finally doing something about it. All right. I'm sure a good chunk of people's actually, been impacted by it to some extent. All right. Alright. I hope that, I just figured I kind of, put my 2 cents in on it. Alright. And why, ultimately, tariffs will not change anything, if anything, because you can literally pretty much look up, manufacturing, taxes and minimum wage laws from state to state to state, okay? I mean, I'm not going to bother getting into minimum wage because I'm pretty sure after what happened in California when they decided to do, I think it was $10, $20, or $14 minimum wage or whatever it was. And then basically, business is pretty much collapsed. I think it summed it up now that when you actually have minimum wage laws, you're not technically having businesses go, oh, I'm going to pay my employees more. No, what you're basically doing is you're basically going at that level of wherever the minimum wage is and all the jobs that was down below it. You're basically saying all those jobs are now illegal. That's actually what's happening. Just like when the federal government or state government basically goes, we're raising these taxes. You stop thinking about who's going to end up paying those taxes. And sure as hell ain't going to be the business owners or the board of directors or the elected by the shareholder CEO. No, they're going to look at that price and go that up it to pay the new taxes. That's why the United States has doesn't have. Well, now it has a major tax problem. Now, since it's gone stupid with taxes, it has a spending problem. All right, as always, I hope this cleared up why the tariffs ain't going to amount to anything. As always, everybody, thank you for watching, and, well, peace out, everyone.